You are about to witness history in the making.
Joel and true, everyone. It's Pop Culture Gamers Podcast Picard Special here. My name's Hayden, and I'm here as always with Alan. Hi, Alan. How are you doing? You've not been very well, have you?
No, hey, Hayden. Kind of started. No, as we spoke the last few days, I've been struck down with a bit of a virus. Thankfully, not the coronavirus. So, just unfortunate timing with chest infections and stuff. You feel like I was saying to you, kind of feel embarrassed every time you cough now or you sneeze or everybody kind of looks at you. But
Yeah.
thankfully, as I said to you, it can't be passed on through this podcast. So, I think everybody's safe.
Yeah.
So I just want
it's not a computer virus.
I know. And I just want to apologize if I come across a bit hoarse or a bit. As I said to Hayden, I'm kind of just along for his show notes and his deep dives now this week. I'm going to be like a fan listening to him for a change and throwing my few little 2 cents, but I won't be as talkative, which some people probably might enjoy more. Maybe I won't be as talkative as the previous episodes.
Well, I think there's certainly a lot to talk about. That's for sure.
100%.
Okay, so let's get the deep dive in then. So this episode's called Nepenthe, which is the name of the planet where Picard has gone to. Now, just as an interesting note or a footnote for this, it's a put my teeth in. Nepenthe is a fictional medicine, a drug of forgetfulness mentioned in ancient Greek literature and Greek mythology, but it's believed to have originated in Egypt. And that's quite fitting for this episode for one element of it, which we'll get onto. So, if in case you've just come across this show, by the way, this is spoilerific. So don't go any further if you haven't seen episode 7, because we will tell you exactly what happened and more in it as well. So just be aware of that. Okay, so let's get on with the recap then. So we get the recap. It's got Soji and Nerek first off. Nerek's deceiving Soji, and then Soji's escaping with Picard. So it just gives that quick little, little vignette of what happened. So now, and I love this. This made my day. We go to the Daystrom Institute, and we're having a flashback, and the flashback is pre the meeting, and Commodore O appears,
sunglasses
and all, and approaches Agnes. And Commodore O basically is asking about Picard and the fact that Agnes has transferred 300 gigabytes of information to her personal access display device. Now, just a reference to the TNG, they used to call them pads, which is what personal access display device is. So just like basically it's like an iPad. Anyway, they talk about Daj, they talk about Bruce Maddox, and asks Agnes to go on a mission with Picard. And then she mind melds with Agnes and gives her these images of this horrific future that might be. Now, just as a footnote, mind melds have been used many times on Star Trek, but the first time that I can think of was in the original series episode Dagger of the Mind, where Spock's mind melds with Van Gelder of the Tantalus Penal Colony, which was his first mind meld with a human, if I remember rightly. He also mind melded about 12 episodes, a couple of episodes later, with a Horta in the episode Devil in the Dark, which is one of my favourite original series ones. He's also mind melded, if you remember, with Gracie the Whale on the voyage home.
On the voyage home, yeah.
With McCoy to transfer his Catra, at the end of The Wrath of Khan, and many other times. It's been one of those tropes that's been done quite a lot. Even on Spectre of the Mind, in mind melds with all of the main elements of the crew. Vulcans can mind meld, and it's been used many times on Star Trek.
Yeah.
Sarek mind melded with Picard and Kirk over the course of the shows and the films. And in the 22nd century, this is interesting, is that on Enterprise, mind melds were believed to be an ability of a minority of Vulcans only, and that they were considered to be undertaking deviant practice to the Vulcan ancient teachings. And that was in the episode Stigmata. So mind meld's long history with the show.
Yeah.
So now we show scenes of O in a hooded outfit. There are people standing around this circle with what looks like a sort of how can I put it? Sort of like Ben Solo, like lightsaber table, as it were, because it's got that pulsating light, like Ben's lightsaber on Star Wars, but it's in the shape of a round table, which was a bit weird.
Yeah, I thought it looked like one of those troughs that this is me no Irish. It looked like one of those troughs that they have for cattle. A big round thing where the cows stick their heads into the gates to eat the food. It had that, but it was glowing like a lightsaber. That's what I thought. It was very. That's kind of one of the theories. One of my later on, one of my few theories I had this week about that. Looked good though, and I think was there 8 or 9 standing around us, which I thought maybe connected to. Oh, was it? I thought it might have been 8 that connected to what's her name, Raffi's theory of the 8 something.
The conical of the 8 or whatever it was.
So I didn't count it.
I thought that. Yeah, I thought that because I looked at a freeze frame, but I'm sure I counted that there was 10 people around it. But it was a poor shot that I managed to pause it on. So
it was
there might have been.
Pause,
yeah, because all of these images were like half-second sort of flashes. We see lots of different things. We see Commodore Ro in a hooded outfit. We see the people in the circle. We see loads of explosions, planets blowing up, etc. Some Vulcans pulling a face, hitting themselves with rocks. One shoots himself in the head. Another planet explodes, and then the mind meld breaks. Obviously, Commodore O is quite shook by it, which I still think she's a Romulan. I still think she's a Romulan. I don't think she's a Vulcan at all. I reckon she's Shad Vash.
I think she's as well, yeah.
I think she is. Yeah. Either that or else she's Tal Shiar. She's one of the two.
Yeah, it was interesting how one or two, they all kind of go crazy. And one, you see one kind. I think that goes back to when she said it to Dr. Jirashi when she, when she's going to show her it's going to break her mind or destroy her mind. I think is it a way of kind of finding people that can the information you're given. They're trying to maybe get a cult or get it like the Shad Vash. Only a certain group of people can survive it. Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. I think it's some sort of way that that maybe the pass on this generational knowledge from 1,000 or 2,000 years ago, but not everybody can cope with it, and I think that they either go mad or they go, they get past it, and it wouldn't surprise me if Rizzo was one of the people around that thing at that time.
I think
maybe that's how she was.
Yeah, it was interesting how it was all females as well.
It was every one of them. Yeah, no, but maybe that's something that's sort of like evolving out of a new sort of view of the Romulan society, because it's been very female focused apart from Narek, if you think about it, because you've had Rizzo, who is she. I love Narissa Rizzo because she is just so wonderfully evil.
Yeah,
her approach. I love her because she is like a pure evil bad guy, as it
Yeah,
were.
she is. She's very single-minded. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that about her character, sort of thing. Anyway, Agnes, pulls
Actually,
away from the mine. So go on.
sorry, no, sorry, not cutting up there. An interesting one I just thought of it there was, what if one of the people has the information or has that information in their head, and they got assimilated by the Borg, and that's why the Borg ship got destroyed. It was too much for them. Just thought popped into my head there now. No?
Maybe that's what makes them unborgable.
Yeah, maybe it was too much for them as well to deal with.
Maybe it was Ramda.
Ramda. What's Ramda now? Oh, she's
The yeah,
one from
the one with the
episode.
tarot cards.
Oh, the one from like the kind of that episode, yeah, where she's a bit, one Floor of the Cuckoo's Net episode, I call it, where
Yeah.
they're all in the kind of say, oh, okay,
Yeah,
right,
because
okay,
she says about Soji that I remember you from tomorrow.
yeah,
So
you see, that's
maybe,
good. No, you well, good catch there, no, Hayden. That's good.
yeah, maybe she was one of the people who was hooded, because you don't get to see all of the faces in this
No.
very, very quick thing.
I'd say you probably
either.
will know,
So-
maybe not next episode, maybe the episode after. You have to in one episode see the full scene.
Yeah,
Probably dying,
because
but
yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. I think we're on the cusp of getting all of these sort of like answers,
okay,
and I'm maybe even we're going to get the answer of what happened with Mars. Maybe we're going to get to know what happened with the Romulan star, because I still think that has been forcibly happened to the Romulan star, because otherwise they'd have known about it for a long time. It wouldn't have just happened. Stars just don't blow up. They
No.
go through a cycle. So anyway, Agnes pulls away. She throws up. This is one of several
Yeah.
times that Agnes throws up in this episode.
yeah,
And then O gives her this little thing to chew so that she can be trapped. And she says to Agnes, we have, now that you know what's going to happen, sort of thing, we have something for you to do, and it's going to cause a terrible sacrifice.
yeah.
We then flip over to La Serena, and from here, the ship's caught in a tractor beam, exactly the same type of tractor beam that we saw the Borg using previously. It's a green tractor beam. It's the type that you would see with that ship going, all the way back to Q-Who and to, the best of both worlds, all of those sort of episodes. So Raffi's using a console trying to, unlock the ship from the tractor beam. And when she's doing that, she brings up some images on, this like floating display. And did you notice them at all?
No. Like I
There
said,
was-
I won't lie to Hayden. This week, no, I watched the episode once or twice, but I haven't really. As you know, I've been dealing with other health issues, so I haven't really been deep diving like you, I think.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough.
Sorry,
So
no, about that, lads.
there were pairs of circles.
Oh, I saw the pair of circles. Yeah.
Circles. Yeah, in like
Yeah.
a pattern, but like hand drawn sort of thing.
Right.
And that reminds me of the necklace that
The necklace.
Soji and Daj have. But also later on, let's talk about Infinity Lake. Now, Infinity and Ouroboros is effectively two circles, attached to each other like an 8 on its side. So is Infinity Lake sort of
Okay.
something as well? Just as a thought, because it's sort of like that might be a bit of a red herring that they've tried to plant in our heads.
It did, yeah, they did linger on us a bit when she was looking at it.
Yeah. So, she brings up these pairs of images of circles overlapping. Agnes says that the Romulans will hunt Soji and Picard down, and to say that whoever is holding them in the tractor beam is to let them go so that they can go home. Because Agnes is really showing that she doesn't want to be on this mission now.
Yeah.
She's losing it, basically. We then cut over to the Borg cube, and Narissa Rizzo is holding Hugh and the XBs captive, and is asking where Picard and the synth are. She shoots one of them. The weapon that Narissa had, I thought, looked particularly like the one that the person at the opening scene shot herself with as well.
on the
It was
vision, yes.
exactly the same style of disruptor. So I thought, that's one of the things that made me think that Narissa might be, one of the people around that whatever it was at the bit, in the vision. So Narissa orders the executions of the XBs because Hugh's not helping, not giving any information. Cuts to Narek. We see Narek getting into a small craft. I think we later find out they're called snakeheads, if I remember rightly, which are vastly overpowered weapons crafts. Very maneuverable, high weapons on them, much more commensurate to a larger ship. We cut back to the cube, and Narissa saying that she hates the cube. She says to Hugh that the XBs died because he let Picard escape, and may have doomed trillions of souls in doing so across the galaxy. Narissa says she won't kill Hugh because he's protected by the treaty with the Federation. She contacts Narek, who says that he's leaving and he's got a strong signal. Cut over to La Serena. Rios is happy that the tractor beams, they've managed to escape from it. Raffi said, that wasn't me who managed to do that, and it might be a trick. He says, it doesn't matter, I've effectively got tricks of my own, and let's get out of here. Agnes says, well, hold on, what about Elnor? So he's on the comm and he said, no, I'm going to stay with you. The stuff I need to help people here. They think he's crazy and leave. But the music that was playing, it was a Picard theme, but it sounded very Lord of the Rings, I thought, which is kind of the look that's fostered with him, isn't it? Like that elfin sort of look.
Yeah.
And then we see the La Serena fly off into warp, and then we see the wreck chasing after straight away.
Yeah.
So now we jump over to Nepenthe, and they're in a wooded area. Picard and Soji appears. They're immediately confronted by somebody holding a bow and arrow at the head. This is where you start getting some really lovely scenes. Picard says you might want to point it at his head rather than at his heart because it's solid duratanium, which is referenced in the episode Tapestry, where Picard had his heart replaced with an artificial one in 23-27 after playing Donjot and getting into a quarrel with a Nausicaan at Starbase Earhart.
Yeah.
So he then asks the girl with the bow if they're safe, and calls her Kestra, and asks if her mum and dad are there. Now, if you've watched Next Generation, you'll probably realise that the reference to Kestra was Deanna Troy's older sister. Now, Kestra drowned when Deanna was an infant. Stricken with grief and regret, Luxwana removed all evidence that Kestra had ever existed from her own life, and even repressed the memories of Kestra in Deanna. She also made her husband swear never to mention Kestra again. And because of this, Deanna did not learn that she had a sister until 2370, when Luxwana's memories resurfaced in the episode of The Next Generation called Dark Page. Now, this is an interesting deep cut, but the lake that Kestra drowned in was on Beta Z, and it was called Lake Elnar.
Oh, okay.
And of course, we have a character called Elnor.
Elnor, yeah. I think that's a bit too much. Is that a bit much too coincidental?
I don't know, because let's face it, Elnar. I think that they've taken that and
there's definitely similarities to it. I agree with you there.
Very definitely. The only difference is that Elnar is obviously it's got an instead of an O, and there's also an apostrophe after the EL.
Yeah. Maybe you could be right.
Yeah, I just kind of like feel that there's a link there somewhere. Maybe not directly in the show, but certainly in the production.
Yeah.
So Stra asks if Picard is Soji's grandfather or father. She says no, but he believes he knows. Soji says no, but he thinks he knows who is. Kestra shows Soji a compass, which see from Captain Crandall at Infinity Lake. Now, Infinity Lake is on Nepenthe, which is also where the starbase is for Nepenthe as well. They talk about the game that Kestra's brother made up, and she says she's not really a Vivine wild girl of the woods. Kestra asks about Soji's father. He says, you've heard of talk about Commander Data, and then she asks Soji if she's an android. Soji gets quite upset because she's still thinking, all of this is like a screwing with her mind rather than anything else, and it's just Tal Shiar way of getting information out of her, or Jatavash. She thinks that everything is fake, but Picard says that Daj was real and that she was killed by the people who were chasing after her, and that says that she was murdered, but Soji basically doesn't believe anything that anyone's saying at the moment. So now, cut to the Riker residence, and Troy meets Picard outside. She's gardening at the time. Troy knows that he's in trouble because obviously she's a half Beta Z and she can read people's emotions. She also knows that he's ill, so obviously maybe the effects of his illness progressing. He says he's fine. She doesn't actually say he's ill, but she rubs his hand over the side of his head where this thing, this illness is, and says I'm fine, sort of thing. Picard introduces Soji. Riker's cooking. Kestra shouts, "Picard is here!" And then we see Jonathan Frakes. As Riker turn round, they have a big hug. Riker realizes Picard is in trouble, and then this is an interesting thing. Houses have shields. He orders the shields to ride.
Good. I love that.
Now, this is where we get another interesting reference, because he says that they've been having trouble with the Zinti. Now, I misheard it at first, and I thought he said Zindi, not Zinti. And the difference is the Zindi were the bad guys in season 3 of Enterprise, because they were the ones that sent the probe to destroy, to try and destroy Earth, sort of thing. Whereas the Zinti, not Zindi, Zinti, they are the first reference I've seen in Star Trek that I can recall that is to the animated series.
Okay.
So the Zinti in the animated series have been at war with the humans 4 times and lost in all times. Some Zinti had actually fed on human meat because they're carnivorous, and the last war that took place between the humans and the Zinti was in the late 21st century, and the Zinti after that were forbidden from all weapons except from police vessels under the Treaty of Sirius. And that was always the animated series, the Slaver weapon. They've also appeared or were referenced in the original series episodes, the animated series episodes, The Time Trap and The Infinite Vulcan. They were mentioned in one and appeared again in another. So next, Picard says it might be good to also do anti-cloaking. Scans, Riker says Romulans, and Picard nods, and then they say, he orders the computer to do scans, and then they talk about Riker and Picard about the evacuation of the Romulans, and Riker turns around and says, "Do you remember what I said to you?" He says, "Yes, if you want to be arse deep in Romulans for the rest of your life." And he says, "Yes, there was that, but there was also about Newton's 4th law of thermodynamics, which is no good deed ever goes unpunished." Now, This is a personal reference for me
Right.
because I have used that figure of speech for probably the last 2 decades. That's it. Because just, with things that have happened in my life when I've done people favors and then it's all sort of like
Yeah.
backfired and stuff.
Backfired.
How whenever anyone says do a good deed, I say no good deed ever goes unpunished, and it
Right.
is exactly what I said. Anybody who knows me would have heard me say it at some point or another, probably several times a week, to be quite honest. So
Right.
I found that really fun for myself. But also, this Newton's fourth law is actually the conservation of time.
Right.
In reality, it's not, no good deed ever goes unpunished. But obviously, a lot of this is about time, isn't it? It's
Yes.
because of the intelligence, the AI in the past.
Yeah,
and the
there's
AI.
definitely we
sort of-
both think there's definitely time travel or something involved there. So there's
Yeah.
time as well, passing and moving.
Exactly. Yeah.
I liked the scene now, just to cut you off there, when Picard goes in to see Riker and he's kind of Riker's standing with his back to him cooking, in the thing. It kind of reminded me of the Generations movie when Picard kind of walked in on Kirk in a very similar kind of house as well, and Kirk kind of had his back as well, and it was kind of Picard calling or dropping by to see the two of them again. It felt very similar to that Generations moment, I thought. The style of it.
Mm.
It was good.
And it's also reminiscent of Riker from another episode of Star Trek as
Right,
well,
when he's cooking.
which was Enterprise, because on Enterprise, on the episode These Are the Voyages, Riker, that episode of Enterprise is in reality set in the holodeck of the Enterprise during the USS Pegasus crisis, where Riker has to make a moral decision of does he support his previous captain or Jean-Luc.
Yeah, was that the final episode of Enterprise, if I remember.
That was the final episode of Enterprise,
yeah.
And he took the part of the chef on the NX-1 Enterprise on the holodeck.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, pretty much panned as the worst last episode because they made it about the Next Generation when it was Enterprise.
Because I loved the Enterprise series, and I actually thought it ended poorly.
I did, yeah.
Great show. It was a continuous arc. It wasn't kind of like a weekly Monster of the Week show. It was like they had one arc every season going right through the whole season. It was a great show. Like,
was I never saw what the problem was with Enterprise. I really enjoyed it, and especially season 3. That was definitely the reason.
Brilliant.
But there was some good smaller arcs in season 4, like the Soon one. That was another good one. Anyway, so Deanna enters and they talk about Soji. Deanna says she's expressed emotion. She's clearly traumatized, but I can't read her. Picard says he thinks he's over his head. He's lost his ship and his crew. His plan was a half plan at best. Deanna says Picard needs to rest. Kestra walks in. She's hunted an animal, which is like a small rabbit sort of creature, and which she's skinned, from hunting in the woods. Riker's going to cook it with a pizza, and Riker says, to stay as long as he needs, as they can handle it.
Yeah.
So they cut outside. Soji's showering and talking to Kestra. She's asking questions, like does Kestra's asking Soji rather, does she like to play the violin like Sherlock Holmes? Well, in the episode of The Next Generation, Dear Data, Data obviously plays the violin while pretending to be Sherlock Holmes, and he's pitted against Moriarty, who is a hologram that's given the parameters to beat Data, and in doing so becomes sentient.
Yeah.
Later in another episode called Ship in a Bottle, Moriarty returns and holds the Enterprise to ransom while trying to get Picard and crew to free him from captivity in the Enterprise's memory core. and also rescue the woman that he loves from the Sherlock Holmes novels. But Moriarty's eventually tricked into entering a holographic simulation, which he believes is the real world, and then he's left in that holographic simulation, running on a computer just to keep him out of the way and not interfere with anything. She's asking questions like, can she run really fast? Can she jump high? Can she bend steel bars? And throughout all of the Next Generation movies, we've seen Data do all of this sort of stuff as well. Cuts to the bedroom, and she asks Soji if she has mucus. She says, yes, she does. But Soji doesn't really know a lot about Data. She doesn't think that Data is a father. She's asking, why would he make her? Why would he make her with mucus? All of that sort of stuff. Kestra says Data was always trying to be human. She also says he had dreams, tell jokes, learn how to ballroom dance, etc. I mean, we've talked about before in previous episodes about the fact that Data learned how to dream in the episode of The Next Generation called Birthright. But there's also multiple references to other things, like, for example, the humour references the Next Generation episode, The Outrageous O'Connor, where he seeks help from Guinan regarding how to be, to be funny. And then the dancing reference comes in the episode's Data's Day, where Data asks the Doctor to learn how to dance ready for O'Brien and Keiko's wedding. And in the episode, it's also where he's writing letters to Bruce Maddox to help him understand how Data thinks.
Yeah.
So
I liked this new character, Kestra. She's a nice addition. She's very well acted, very well played. Yeah, she was good. No, I have to say, and she played very well off Soji and stuff. I thought it was very good.
Yeah, I have to admit, I was very impressed with the actress's skills, because it's very, very difficult, especially when you're up against characters that we have known and loved for 30 plus years, to portray a brand new character in a way, especially, a child character, because child characters, when you're older, tend to be the ones that you're not so keen on, but actually portrayed the character in such a way that you actually liked the character. And this is a girl who in real life is 14 years old.
Yeah,
and I think she's right in. She did. You could just imagine she was both of their, children, a child rather.
Yeah,
so,
when I see that character now, in maybe next season or a future season, I think they could do it. I think they could do a lot with her. And Picard moving forward.
I have a feeling we might see Riker again.
Yeah, I kind of put down as my theories as well later on.
Yeah.
Because of what he says. So, yeah.
He's on the active reserve list.
Yes, I have that, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, we go to somewhere else in the house, and Deanna and Picard takes Picard to Thad's room. This is their son's room. And evidently he makes up various different languages, or that's what he did do. One of them that he did was called Vivine, but also Deanna shows him a picture of Thad with Picard when he's a baby. Picard's in his Admiral uniform, and so's the baby as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we shared one of those when my son was a baby. I'd have had him in that all the time. just to really embarrass him as an adult. I think that would have been really good.
God.
So anyway, his full name is Thaddeus, and he died of what would have been a curable disease, but unfortunately, he's dead now. But he would have been 18 at this time had he have lived, so we understand.
Yeah,
so
I think it was this because of the outlaw of the synths was like one of the reasons that they couldn't get the cure, because though they injected it into, I think what was the impression I got? They injected the cure into the synth and then they used that to cure whatever Teddy had.
It required a positronic matrix.
Yes. But because they were outlawed, then they couldn't do it. So that's quite interesting, really, wasn't it? That there was such a because they outlawed the synths and stuff, that it had a knock-on effect in real world, in like or the Star Trek like world universe.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to bring in a reference to Voyager now, because there's an episode of Voyager called Death Wish, in which a member of the Q Continuum who calls himself Quinn wanted to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as part of this sort of like argument that Q put to Janeway of why he shouldn't be allowed to commit suicide, he brought various different figures, including, I think it was Isaac Newton, can't remember who the other one was, and then William T. Riker.
Yeah.
And then he brought Riker because of one of his ancestors, Thaddeus, rather, so that, and Quinn saved Thaddeus so that his descendants would be born, and to save the Federation from the Borg. So I think we can assume that Thaddeus is probably named after that ancestor.
Yes.
I think that's probably safe to assume. Anyway, Deanna says it's wonderful to see Picard, and he reassures Deanna that he'll be gone soon because, he knows that he's bringing danger to the door. And she said, I think she's very up and down on this episode. I think she's probably fighting against trying to save her family from danger and wanting to help Picard, because she's, she said, stay here as long as you want, but I don't want anything to happen to Kestra. I can't bear to lose her, sort of thing. So then we cut to La Serena. Alarms are going off. They know someone is tailing them somehow, and it's a snakehead ship, which is obviously all the firepower and whatever.
Yeah.
Agnes is very anxious because obviously the tracker's in her, because that's what she tuned. And they try and outrun it. Agnes says that she wants to be the fun member of the crew who says, let's go and hide in that comet. And it turns out to be Gormanga. Sorry, Gormagander. That's it, isn't it? It's a weird word to pronounce. This is a reference to Discovery. Basically, it's a non-atmospheric organism that lives in space and feeds off alpha particles on a solar wind. They are considered to be endangered species as of 2256.
Yeah.
And Discovery tried to help a wounded one of these space whales, as referenced, in 2256, but it was actually being used by Harcourt Fenton Mudd to infiltrate Discovery in the episode Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad. That was a great episode as well.
It was so well done. The kind of time travel, was it one where he's flipping back time, doing the same thing, repeating it over and over again till, is it no? Is that the episode?
That's one, brilliant episode.
It's a great episode. And also, I kind of thought maybe it was a kind of a throwback to the Empire Strikes Back, where they hide in the comet. And I don't know, were they kind of throwing that in there as well, because she said, like, we hide in the comet,
Yeah.
When the Millennium Falcon hid in the comet away from and there was the creature in there as well.
Yeah, there was.
Excuse me.
It's all right. So Agnes asks if does anybody actually really want to go to the Nepenthe? And Raffi's saying this isn't an excursion. We're not on holiday. We're there to pick up Picard. And also she says that it seems the closer that she gets to Soji, the less she wants to get there.
Yeah.
So Agnes gets very upset about the mission. She starts swearing about this, effing android, and she doesn't want to find it. And Raffi says, Raffi and Rios sort of like look at each other. Rios sort of like rolls his eyes, and Raffi takes her to go, get her sorted out with something. So she says, will there be cake? And, Raffi's sort of like playing a sort of like motherly figure, saying, yes, if that's what you want. And I'm going to do a non-episode one now, right. And you'll get this one as well. But in the audio and book of Star Trek Picard: The Last Best Hope, that's where we learn about Agnes loves cake, particularly carrot cake.
Carrot cake, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we cut to the Pen Theatre. Picard is saying that he didn't want to involve Will, but it was a desperate impulse, to escape that he came here. Riker says, he'll stick to making pizza and won't say what's going on in his head. And then Riker then makes a sort of like a little bit of a dig, I thought, at Picard, effectively saying, wouldn't it be good if keeping people in the dark about the danger, keeping them ignorant of it, would save them from the danger? And Picard saying, that's not what I'm saying to you. And then Riker shows him Antarian basil, says it grows like weeds on this planet because it's got regenerative powers, which is why they moved there, to try and help their son before he died, and also help themselves to recover from what happened.
Yeah.
Kestra and Soji enter. They start speaking in one of Thad's languages. Kestra says Soji's read Thad's dictionary in like 2 minutes and memorized it all. Riker says that's over 300 pages. Soji tilts her head in a Data kind of way, looking at the pizza. Yeah, very good nod there. I think she did quite a good impersonation of that nod.
Good.
Yeah. Riker says, and then introduces himself to Soji. Soji and Kestra leave, and then Riker says that he's going to speculate about what's going on, and Picard doesn't have to say anything, and effectively says everything that is going on. He doesn't miss a beat.
Yeah.
It doesn't miss a beat.
He got 20 seconds. He got the full thing in 20 seconds. That's taken us 7 episodes to try and figure out, and nearly 14 hours of podcasting. I was like, come on.
Yeah. Good old Will.
Yeah.
And then here's an interesting one, because Riker calls out Picard's arrogance about it's always him deciding who is in or out of a decision, and it always ends up with Picard. And Riker says that's fine when you're on a starship, but you're dealing with a teenager, and he doesn't think Picard's up to it.
Yeah, that was good.
Now, this isn't the first time that we've had Picard being called out for being quite arrogant or having hubris.
Yeah.
So, it's like, while we think very fondly of Picard, maybe because, just because of the way that he was very strict and stern and all that sort of stuff, maybe some people found him to be quite arrogant and overbearing as well.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those things of command is command, isn't it? And people are going to, sometimes think negatively of you.
I think, even we saw in the couple episodes ago in the Starfleet, he's not as loved as we think he is in our own minds. Like, we have this perception of Picard, but I think in the actual institute or the Starfleet Institute, he's actually very much not very much, maybe even maligned or hated, because of his arrogance and his hubris, But he doesn't see it because of that either. He thinks he's the bee's knees, I suppose, really,
Yeah, definitely. So we cut to the garden. Troy asks Soji if she's ever had a tomato. Soji says no and tastes it. She says it tastes so real.
Yeah.
And says really so much better. They talk about Thad and his made-up languages. Evidently, he'd made up 11 languages in his life, and also a language of butterflies as well, which involved flapping of wings and colour. He was, they say he was brought up on starships and was fascinated by people who had their own homeworlds. This is where we find out that he had mendaxic neurocirrhosis,
well said,
which is a very rare but easily curable disease that's based on a silicon-based virus.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't fatal, or it wouldn't have been fatal had the ban on synthetics not been, come in, because it needed a positronic matrix in order to cultivate the antibodies to the virus. So people are needlessly dying because of this bad as well.
Yeah, and I suppose that's kind of a nice little story moment that adds to the ongoing arc again. Like that's
Yeah,
how this since not been there is having a knock-on effect, and like we said earlier on, in the real Star Trek world really, or the real human universe or whatever,
yeah.
So it's nice, even only kind of like a couple of seconds of a story, but it actually tied in very well, I thought.
But interestingly enough, though, the synthetics that were on Mars didn't have positronic matrix. They used neuro gel packs, the same as
Yeah.
what Voyager on the A500 unit. So,
Mm.
but I suppose there would be other sort of like positronic
Yeah.
matrix out there. Just in case you're wondering what that is, the positronic matrix is basically the brains of certain types of synthetic life, which was used by some type androids, including Data, Law, B4, and Juliana Taylor, who was also Juliana Sung before that.
Yeah.
She was the one who was made to resemble a human in every form of way possible, with false biosignatures and all of this, that, and the other. But Data got to the bottom of the fact that she was actually an android, and he put his wife's memories into the android, which was much more advanced than Data was, as well. And that was in the Next Generation episode Inheritance.
Yeah. But that was one of my theories last week, wasn't it? About maybe Sun has used the same technique to put his brain into a robot.
It would make sense.
To continue, yeah. We'll see though. I don't know if that's going to come true.
I'd love it to come true. That would be mortal. But anyway, Troy says that real isn't always better. And Soji says that the Romulans want to know where she came from. Talk about Iraq. Soji doesn't trust anyone. She certainly doesn't trust Picard. Picard enters and he's quite sarcastic about, oh, yes, of course, this is all an elaborate plot. Soji pushes past Picard, pushes him hard to one side. Riker calls after her, and Troy basically turns around and says, "You had that coming." A very unsympathetic way. And she said, "Don't you know what she's been through, how she's been abused, and all of this, that, and the other? Her very essence and memories, everything have been turned against her."
Yeah.
Riker kind of calls Deanna off, saying Imzadi. Obviously, this is a reference to the Next Generation Encounter at Farpoint episode, which is a special name that Riker calls to Deanna, and is Beta Z for beloved.
Yeah.
It's also referenced in the episode Skin of Evil, where Deanna calls Riker this, and in the episode Haven, Man of the People, Shades of Grey, Thine Own Self, and Nemesis. That's referenced in all of them as well. It's also, excuse me, it's also the title of a book by Peter David, which explores how Deanna Troi and Will Riker first met and fell in love, and how Riker left Beta Z.
Oh, okay. I don't think I've read that.
It's a good book. Is that I quite like the Peter David Next Generation stories.
I must get that.
Yeah, well worth a read.
Sure.
So Riker's called away because there's something burning. Deanna says that Picard needs to be patient, compassionate, and curious, and she says we'll find a way forward. Cut to the Borg cube, and Hugh and Elnor are going back to the Queen's cell. He's saying that. Hugh's saying that he's going to take back the cube from the Romulans. Narissa appears as if by magic. I thought it was so, it's like, let's say the whole plot of all of the things that we're going to do against the Romulans while walking past this very obviously good place that a Romulan could stand there and listen to what I'm saying about, which is exactly what happened. So Narissa appears and she says, "Oh, so it's open insurrection. Now I can kill you."
Yeah, it was a bit like kind of. Don't get me wrong, it was a nice moment, but again, it goes back to the writers' little bit lazy writing, I think,
Yeah, to be honest, the only thing that was missing was that she didn't have a mustache that she was twirling while she saying that. I thought it was a very sort of like,
Yeah.
you know, that very cartoony sort of evil sort of thing. Anyway, Elna draws his sword and says in Romulan, you know, friends choose to live sort of thing. Narissa starts firing. Elnor jumps into action and kills some of the Romulans. Narissa says, you know, after he's killed all of the other Romulans, they're facing each other. Narissa says, this is not how the Kulat Milat and the Zhat Vash fight. And then they engage in hand-to-hand combat. And Narissa, at a moment when she knocks Elnor back, throws a knife into Hugh's neck.
Yeah.
And Elnor rushes to his side, and he pulls the knife out of Hugh's neck and throws it at Narissa just as she's drawing a weapon, but she beams out in time so she doesn't get hit by the knife. Hugh says that Elnor needs an XB to activate the Queen's chambers, and then promptly dies, which is a great shame because he's a great character.
Yeah, I just briefly in that one, like I don't know that I'd say it last week or whatever. I was saying I hope they don't kill off Hugh. No, they did, and I kind of spoiled a few little bits. I think when I was texting you, I didn't realize you were watching the show. Still, well, I was so sorry about that.
I was about 5 minutes away from that, and then you text me and said, "What do you think about him killing off you?" And I just burst out because I was on that very scene, and you told me the end of it.
Oh no, I'm so sorry because we were passing theories back and forward so much. I thought you'd finished it.
Yeah, we were. I didn't have offence at it all. I just burst out laughing because brilliant.
I just think it wasn't the death he deserved. It was kind of he deserved a bit better, but I'm kind of a theory later on that maybe of bringing him back, you know,
possibly
because we know like the Borg can survive. Was it up to 72 hours? They can be resurrected. So no, he's an XB, so he's not technically Borg anymore. But if Seven comes back somehow. You know, we know in the episode of Voyager, she brought back Neelix using her nanoprobes when he'd gone. So I'm thinking maybe she'll do the same for Hugh. You know,
I'm not so sure, and the reason why I'm saying I'm so sure is because I saw an interview with him, and he was like pretty much talking that his character's dead.
Oh, you're a bastard! Sorry for cursing. I just thought it was, you know, it was nice to have. There could have been more of an arc there with him, you know, even for future series. Maybe him being in charge of the board, something, you know.
That interview that I saw with him might just be like a false thing, you know, to just keep the story going. So we don't know. But
yeah, we can hope. So.
Yeah, I really want him to be resurrected because I really liked him as a character. You know, he's a good actor. He played a good part. I want to see more Hugh in Star Trek, but that's, you know, it is as it is at the moment. So we cut back to La Serena, and Raffi is getting Agnes some more cake and milk. Agnes is feeling much better. You know, she's happy that Raffi's been kind to her. She starts sobbing, you know, uncontrollably. Raffi tries to understand what's going on, and she's saying, you know, is it Rios? And then she thinks, oh no, it's Bruce, isn't it? That's what's the matter. And then Agnes starts throwing up, a very red, very thick sort of throwing up. It was pretty gross, actually.
Yeah.
Raffi asks for the emergency hospitality program, but that doesn't appear at all. Cut to Nepenthe. Riker is serving food. Picard can't get in contact with Rios. They talk about services to get off world, and Kestra suggests Captain Crandall, who she's very much friends with, who her father and mother don't like very much, or that relationship. And she says that Captain Crandall has been everywhere from Kronos to the Titan's Rift. Now, this is referenced in multiple Star Trek episodes. So in the episode Broken Bow, The Expanse, In a Mirror Darkly, The Undiscovered Country, Next Generation's Sins of the Father, Redemption, The House of Quark, Into Darkness, and what else? Magic to Make the Sanest Man, The War Without the War Within, and Will You Take My Hand? Those are all references to where Kronos has been involved, and that's not all of them, which is obviously the Klingon homeworld, which everybody, before we found out it was called Kronos, thought it was called Kling.
Yeah.
Because of Klingons. But there we go. And then Tachyon's rift was a rupture in space where energy was absorbed, and it was named after Bela Tachyon, the Malthusian captain who encountered it first. And on 2367, the Enterprise became trapped in a Tachyon's rift, containing a binary star system. So we're back to two circles, aren't we?
Yeah.
After discovering a missing Federation science vessel, the USS Britain, in the episode Night Terrors. And in that episode, that was the one where Deanna was having nightmares, and it ended up that the aliens that were also in the rift were trying to tell her what the Enterprise needed to eject so that they could all escape and close a Tachyon's rift. So Captain Crandall has a ship called the Inside Strait. Soji talks about her meditation and the information about her home planet. She becomes reluctant to talk anymore. Picard says, look, you can trust me. Listen to the timbre of my voice. Look at my, my heartbeat, the dilation of my eyes, all of that thing. And what she says is, I can tell you telling the truth as you believe it, sort of thing, rather than what might actually be the truth. Picard says he just wants to get her home. They talk about data. Picard talks about his meeting with Daj, and says that he was haunted by his past and he was waiting to die. And then Daj basically gave him a purpose. Soji talks about the Zakmach, which was the detention that she used, and what happened with Narek. Riker thinks there's links to Maddox in this. Really, Sherlock? Deanna says that he continued to create a synthetic life after the ban. Soji says that she wants to go to a homeworld. Picard says he wants to get her there.
Yeah.
Riker says that Tal Shiar have a head start and he should be contacting Starfleet. Picard doesn't know, where they're going. And then Kestra says it's in the Valiant sector, the Goonian system, and the planet has a number only. It doesn't have a name. Mm-hmm. And she says, and that was information from Captain Crandall because she's been texting him under the desk, sort of thing. And I actually did the thumb thing with texting there as well with my hands. When we're doing a podcast, you can't see it.
That kind of moved the story on very fast, didn't it?
It did. It's an easy mechanic for them to do.
It really was, wasn't it? I suppose they kind of had to, but I just thought, you know what? No, it was that easy for her just to find it in 2 seconds,
Yeah. Well, the last thing you want to do is just have them searching through, the Google of the 24th century to find out what planet that might be. You have 3 million hits. So we cut to La Serena's sickbay, and Rios talks to Agnes. He thinks that Raffi is being trapped, and she was being mysterious and saying goodbye forever, and the next thing that she's back. He thinks that Raffi is betraying her, and thinks that Raffi maybe has a tracker on her from the Romulans. Agnes says she doesn't think so. She doesn't believe it's Raffi because she knows it's her for a start off. And Rios says, well, what, is it you? You've not even been off the ship since we've left. So he's very dismissive of that, which is quite amusing.
Yeah. So
Raffi calls to say that the tracker is back and Rios leaves. And this is where Agnes uses replicator to create uranium hydride, and the computer gives a warning that, this could be, poisonous to some life forms. And then Agnes injects herself and collapses convulsion and frothing at the mouth. And the EMH comes online and says, "What's an ATA?" "Oh, bloody hell," sort of thing, and then rushes to her side. So we cut to the wreck, and this is where we see that he's lost the signal of La Serena. Now, I found this to be really, really funny, because I don't know whether or not you noticed, but the ships were only about 50 feet apart.
Yeah, it did look close, yeah.
This whole thing. And what got me is that Rios earlier on had said, "This guy's good. He knows how to state the extent of my sensors." Well, his sensors don't have a very good range. My eyesight's got a better range than his sensors.
He did look like he was right behind him, yeah.
Yeah, it did look like he was being towed. He was so close. They only had to look out of a window and go, "Oh, he's there," and give him a wave. It was quite funny. But obviously, he's supposed to be like thousands of miles away, keeping a monitor on it. But obviously, just seeing a little speck in this thing, it's not as dramatic.
That Father Ted moment, the comedy, like near, far. When Dougal does it with the cow, it's very good.
Yeah.
So maybe it just looks different perspective from the angle.
Yeah, definitely. So. Anyway, we come back to La Serena, and Rios is suspicious of Raffi. He's, says that he has an idea, and about why I might be able to track what's happened. And he says that he doesn't think that she'll like his idea very much. And she says jokingly, "Why are you trying to throw me out of the airlock?"
Oh yes, throw out the airlock.
And the EMH calls Rios about Agnes, and he returns to the sickbay. Now, I have to admit that completely blown my thought for the previous scene, because when Rios was talking to Agnes, I seriously thought that he was suspicious of Agnes.
I thought the same thing, and then he kind of flipped it onto Raffi. It was strange. Yeah.
Yeah, but he was actually being straight with Agnes to say Raffi's doing something. And I'm really quite surprised that, I know that, he's had intimate relations with Agnes at this point, but I'm quite surprised that just because, he's done the dirty, he's suddenly taking Agnes's side over somebody he's known for years, he clearly, from the previous episode, had a very close relationship with.
Yeah, but I could also see how irrational she's been and stuff, maybe, that maybe that's come into it, with the drink and the drugs. Maybe she's, she's not thinking straight. Maybe she has kind of flipped.
Yeah, maybe.
And he knows that she'll do anything because of her obsession to get the answers, to get what she wants,
Yeah, that's true. So we cut to the Borg cube. Elner is alone. He sees the Fenris Ranger calling card and presses it, and shows the Fenris Ranger SOS. And Elner basically is left holding the calling card, looking quite worried, I thought, as well, like he was over his head.
But was that Hugh's bedroom or Hugh's room he went into, or?
I don't know whose room it was that he was in, but
the necklace hanging there, like.
Yeah. I don't think that was the one that Seven gave to Picard. I think that was one that maybe Hugh had.
That's what I was thinking. So was that Hugh's room or Hugh's office he went into? You because the necklace was just hanging there. It was very convenient.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But I mean, he has been running around the cube trying to avoid the Shat Vash, hasn't he?
Yeah, but the cube isn't that small, like, and to go into one room and have that one necklace hanging down that he had to press, and then he smiled when he pressed it. No, don't get me wrong, it's great because it brings Seven. I'm guessing Seven back for the next episode.
Oh yeah, Queen Borg
maybe,
7.
Maybe, yeah.
She'll be the one who'll activate the Borg cube. I guarantee it.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So we cut to Nepenthe, and Picard says his ship's just come into range. Riker's saying that he'll arrange for his pilot to have an easy flight in, and won't get stopped by officials, as it were. They talk about the crew, and Picard says they're decidedly motley and carry a lot of baggage, much more than I remember you carrying. At which Picard messages Rios and says, "What's your ETA?" And he says the same as the last 2 times that you called.
Yeah,
Which I thought, because he's quite frustrated and everything that's going on with him at the moment.
Yeah.
Picard says he can be a little testy, and Riker says, "Well, that's one word for it." And then they talk about Picard being on the active reserve, which is where I think that we're going to see him again in this season. Then Riker and Picard talk about his retirement and that he never had any business retiring, and he shouldn't have done it. And he says, "Well, I think you're right." And they share a really touching sort of moment between them, and Picard says that he's glad that Riker didn't try and talk him out of abandoning his mission.
Yeah.
So we cut to the bedroom. Soji's sleeping, and Kestra is drawing Soji. She wakes up. They talk, and they're going to miss each other because they've really bonded as a couple of young people, as it were. Kestra says that Soji, just want to put my teeth in. Kestra says that Soji and Picard could have each other. They could support each other, as it were.
Yeah.
Outside, Troy and Riker and Picard are hugging. Kestra and Soji enter, and then Kestra gives Soji a compass, and they hug, and then they beam up, and then that's the end of the episode. We got there.
Yeah, well done. The end of that episode was very good because the camera kind of pulled away and up, and it did the Star Trek, the TNG team music as well at the same time, and it was great. Like, it finished off a great episode. It's been my favorite episode so far. It felt the most
Next Generation
one yet. I really, it was great to kind of sing all the old crew back together, even just from one episode like that. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Great episode.
Fantastic.
There was a lot went on in it.
Yeah, definitely. So theories then. I think that we can finally, once and forever, say conclusively that the prediction that Agnes was recruited by Commodore O was 100% correct, because we know it was.
I'm still having trouble with that word recruited, because she was shown something. I think it was shown against her will, because she kind of just grabbed her.
Yes,
and showed her something, and then because the information was in her head, she had no choice but do what she did. That's different than being recruited. I think
conscripted. Then.
Yes,
conscripted.
Yeah.
If you want
working,
pedantic,
you see, not being pedantic, no, but at all. I'll just say that she recruited. She was working. She wasn't willingly working with her. She had no choice.
Yeah.
But as we saw in this episode, she fought it.
I think she did have a choice.
No.
Personally, I think that she did have a choice, because I think what Commodore O was relying on was the horrific nature of what she was seeing, or what she was shown, would be enough to make sure that she would go on to, she would follow Commodore O's instruction willingly, even if pushed against her. But it's sort of like, if you see in a vision that somebody's pointing a gun at your child, and you know that in 1 minute it's going to happen, you're going to go and rescue your child, aren't you? You're not going to stand there and let the child be killed. So I think that it's that kind of moral dilemma that she was put into, but she did have, I think she still had a choice, but she chose to go with it, maybe because it was such an impactful thing.
I see it differently, because if you remember back to the flashback that we saw at the start, where I'm guessing the people we saw, they were killing themselves and they couldn't handle what they'd seen, the vision. She saw the same
Yeah.
thing. Obviously, she showed the same thing to Jurassic to the Doctor, right?
But
But
she
like
see an edited version of.
I don't know. It doesn't matter if it was an edited version. She could have killed her. She could have made her go as crazy as they did. She didn't know how she was
Yeah.
going to handle it. So it's a form of, yeah. I personally, I don't think she's a spy. I think yeah. Like in one way you're right, in another way you're not. If that makes sense. I don't know. I think she was working against her will.
What whether she's working against the will or not, she was working for Commodore Raw.
Okay, okay. We'll give you a half tick.
And that's it's 100% tick. It was accurately predicted.
Yeah.
Um, so we've got that. So
Yeah.
some of the theories that we've got going on. Commodore O is Tal Shiar posing as a Vulcan, possibly.
I'm going to change that a little bit. No, I think she's Zat Vash. I think she's more. I think she's got more control than we think.
I agree. I think
Yeah.
that she might very well be Zhat Vash, and I also think that Admiral Clancy knows that she is as well.
Okay.
I don't think I think I'm going to abandon the mirror universe sort of
Yeah,
stuff
that's
now.
got.
I just
got
don't. Yeah, I think that's gone.
Yeah.
We obviously know that we think that the Borg might have originated with the Romulans as a
Yeah.
possibility. Did the Romulans use similar synthetics to the ones that Maddox has produced?
Yeah.
The human sort of ones. Also think that we'll discover that the nest is actually controlled by Control from Section 31 threat assessment system. I still think that that's going to be in there.
I think
that
I think you're right that the nest is a synthetic homeworld, but I think it's more of it's like because Maddox disappeared, right? And I think he and Son somehow is involved there. I think he disappeared. He made his own paradise in a way that he's created this world of synthetics that he couldn't do legally. He had to do it obviously illegally because it was banned now. And I think Control is trying to find that world to take over those synthetics for his own use.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm thinking,
maybe as a theory, maybe the AI from 500 years in the future is trying to go back in time and find the places where there was like concentrations of AI. So that might be it's trying to get back to like 1,000 years before when it was the Romulan Vulcan split as well. So that's a possibility.
I'm going to throw one of my theories here now. One of my new ones is from season 2 of Discovery. We know that Spock had a vision of Control destroying the galaxy, and it actually affected his mind. The vision looked very similar, kind of to the visions we've seen briefly, very briefly, that Jurassic was shown that these we call them mystery people at the moment that were around the lightsaber table, as we'll call it. We're not sure yet. They saw something similar. So I think you had mentioned Control from the beginning. I'm definitely on board now. I think Control is definitely in there somewhere now, because his major goal is to destroy the galaxy.
Yeah.
It's a very similar vision.
I think from what we've seen in the future, that there is that sort of dystopian, kind of, there's been a war with, synthetic life, as it were.
So that leads into my other theory. Sorry, no, I'm cutting you off. I'll talk while my voice is good. Sorry, Ed.
Yes, all right.
So my vision of Spock's in Control destroying the galaxy, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm going to call him like the Knights Templar. It's kind of an Assassin's Creed. I'm going back to gaming here now again, like just to describe something that thousands and thousands of years ago, the Romulans somehow they saw the syndicate, the robots or whatever, were going to destroy the galaxy.
Yeah.
And they formed the Zhat Vash to stop them, or they did stop them, and then they formed the council, like Knights of the Templar, but they were called the Zhat Vash, that they passed on the information through generations, and know that because the twins are alive, or they're new syndicates, that's why now the Zhat Vash are awake again, and they want to stop it because they know that what has happened before is going to happen again with the coming of the Destroyer and stuff. I think that could, like, it's like that theory is one of my new theories.
And in fact, well, we've both talked, haven't we, about
Yes,
what some of our theories are, and
yes, we used
I
to, yeah.
100% agree with
Okay,
what you've said.
yeah,
That is exactly the conclusion that I came to as well.
great.
That whole, like lightsaber table, for want of a better description,
Yeah,
I think that is how they pass on generational knowledge
yeah,
from one generation to the next, in that sort of like, so that they recruit the next lot of Knights Templars,
that's the way
as
I
you
kind of came up
said.
with. I kind of try to
Yeah,
simplify it.
that's how I think about it as well.
Uh, and
We
only a
know that,
chosen few can hold the information in their head.
yeah, and maybe that makes them unborgable as well,
Maybe, yeah, yeah,
because we talked about that in the past. We thought maybe it's a DNA marker or whatever, but maybe it's certain memories, or there's
yeah,
something that happens to people when they go through that, which makes the Borg assimilation process not work.
yeah. So it'll be interesting if that theory proves to be correct. Is like who created the original robots or synths, or whatever we're going to call them, that scared the
Mm.
Romulans or the Zhat Vash. Was it the Romulans? Was it the Vulcans? Was it like it's in like were they there before? Like if you think about the Egyptians and all the stuff we've had in this current, like our own life planet that had been there and they disappeared or died out, you know? I
What
don't know.
was it? Was it the Borg?
Yeah, who
Were
created
the
them?
Borg,
Yeah,
were the Borg completely synthetic at one point, and then they
yeah,
started incorporating flesh?
yeah.
As like the next step of their evolution, sort of thing. Who
Or
knows? It could be
or as you
anything.
said, did Control go back in time and thousands of years ago, and try to, like the Borg did when they went back in time during First Contact, is it? In
Yeah,
Earth. Maybe Control is a similar one. He went back thousands of years to start, maybe going back before technologies and everything, and build a society to take over the galaxy earlier, before he had opposition. But the Romulans and the Zhat and the Vulcans, and they fought them to stop it.
yeah,
Maybe, I don't know. It's an interesting. If it's going that
yeah,
direction, it's good. I like it. You know.
yeah, definitely. But I think that the tying up Disco with Picard, to
Yeah,
be honest.
yeah,
Um, so because I'm just thinking about an episode of Discovery which I watched the other day, and it was the one where Pike and Tyler encounter a probe in a temporal distortion from 500 years in the
yeah,
future, and it's all that's the AI trying to, take information from the shuttlecraft that they're on, and I think that was a later incarnation of Control. Um, so that's where I think that is. It was Control developed into a malevolent AI.
mm,
After Disco, or it was a preordained paradox which sort of like kicked out,
yeah.
kicked into going everything. And I also think that all hell's going to go on that Borg cube.
I think so too.
But my new theories are Seven of Nine's going to come to Hugh's rescue.
Mm,
I think Seven will activate the Borg cube in the Queen's room to expel the Jacques Vache
yeah,
and the rest of the Romulans from the cube. I think that there is more to the mind meld, and that these scenes will come into play either in this season of Picard or in Discovery season 3. I think it's going to be in this season of Picard,
I
personally.
think so. I think maybe the last episode, maybe they'll reveal loads. You
Oh,
know.
I think it'll be before then. I think
Okay.
it's going to be before then. I think that's going to be used to maybe transition us into the final phase of it, to give us some
Mm,
answers, so that we then
yeah.
get the answers just before the conclusion.
Yeah.
I think that the group of people standing in the circle are Romulans. I don't think that they're actually Vulcans.
Okay.
And I think this is, you'll see in my notes I put, this is where they've passed. This is where they pass on the knowledge in that sort of like Knight Templar kind of way, as you explained.
Mm.
And I still think Commodore O is a Romulan.
Yeah, I yeah, I don't know. She I don't know. Yeah, there's still more. There's still more to her. I still think to come. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, I
Uh,
think we're going to see future episodes.
and I'm still holding out. I think Q is going to appear somewhere. I don't know why. I still think he's involved somehow.
Well, Q introduced the humans or the the
Yes.
Federation to the world.
Yeah.
There are things like Thaddeus as well.
Yeah, there's just been so many
With
mentions. The 5 Qs, the Queens. There's
yeah,
been lots of mentions through the whole series. Yeah.
Tapestry. That's another Q episode. So he's been in the air somewhere
Yeah,
around all.
hinted at, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And
Yeah.
also Counter at Farpoint as well.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been hinted at loads. I just feel he's going to come in somewhere. I hope he does. I'd love to see him back. I'd love it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love John Delancey. I think he's great.
yeah. But
Thinking
I'd be...
about Knights. Sorry, go on.
Go on, no, go on.
I was just saying, thinking about Knights Templars,
Mm.
you do know that John Delancey was the father of the main protagonist in the the modern timeline on Assassin's Creed.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was. On Assassin's
Oh.
Creed, it wasn't 2, it was Brotherhood.
Brotherhood, I love Brotherhood, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's John Delancey who plays, I forgot what, Desmond's father. That's John Delancey.
Oh, that's, yeah, no, you're right, actually. You recognise the voice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love him. He's a great actor.
I think he's good. Have you heard, have you listened to the audiobooks of Spock vs. Q?
No.
I
have a couple of them downloaded, but this week, no, I had planned to go through a couple of books this week, but because of my health, I haven't been running or training. So next week onwards, now, touch wood, I'll be back to normal. I'm going to tackle a couple of more books.
Just as a side note, but with everything that's going on with your country now, with the lockdown of schools or whatever, and the fact that, excuse me, this pandemic is spreading, and more countries are closing down and that, are a lot of your races actually going to still go ahead?
No, 3 of them have been cancelled, and the big one in August is still 50-50 because it's so far away. It's but it's good. Like the Taoiseach now was on TV today. He actually gave a very good speech. I'm not his biggest. The Taoiseach would be like our Prime Minister. We call him one. The Taoiseach is the Irish name of it. He gave a great speech today now, and actually he closed things very quickly. They're really cutting things off, and the Irish now are pretty good at getting things sorted. I'm actually at home now tonight. Now he's reading about England, and your Boris isn't really doing a lot for you, is he? At the moment, he won't close the schools or anything like.
Well, yeah, because we haven't gone to stage 2 in there.
Yeah, but you're the only country in the whole of Europe that hasn't, like. So, and Cheltenham going ahead. There's 20,000 Irish people coming back from Cheltenham. It's scary, like.
Well, but I think that because I was watching this on the news as well, and this is all about different countries in Europe are at different stages, and where the government believes that we are is that we're a few, weeks behind everybody else. No. So they reckon that the pandemic isn't going to be at its maximum and for another 10 weeks, by which point, we'll have the military out and we'll all be confined to quarters, as it were.
Yeah, I think he should be self-isolating now, to be honest with you. Truthfully, just get it over done.
So do I. Not going to work and being at home. Sounds like a plan.
Well, I still have to go to work as soon as I get better. Because as you know, like part of my country club is a golf course as well. So we have a lot of members. So we have separate rooms to feed them and stuff. So thankfully I'm still working, but it just won't be as busy. We had all the confirmations. I don't know you do them in England, but we confirmations and communions. They've all been cancelled. All churches have been closed down. Weddings, it's scary enough, man. Like it started as a joke, and I was one of the guys putting up loads of memes and videos and joking, but it's actually escalated fairly fast, you know. But
Mm.
the only sad news in it is, I suppose it's a bit selfish, is that all the TV shows and movies and everything have stopped productions or have been delayed for a year. E3 is another thing that's been hit, and
Yeah,
I don't think we'll get the consoles this year. Definitely the PlayStation we won't. The Xbox we
I
might.
think I
PlayStation we
think we'll
won't.
get the Xbox because they'll want to
Yeah.
gazump PlayStation.
Well, the Xbox do a lot of their manufacturing. They don't do as much as PlayStation do in China, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't think we'll see PlayStation 5 this year. I'd be surprised if we do. April next year, I'd say.
Or we might see it, but in exceptionally limited
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah, not a hope. I'd say you'll be looking for. But you know, I suppose it's more important to get this thing sorted.
It is, but at least we've got Picard,
Yeah, thank God. It's great.
and then after Picard finishes, Disney Plus is released. Yay!
Yes. So I'm thinking Mandalorian's going to be our next one. Our
I
next
think it probably
chat.
will be.
Yeah, we can do, and we'll build up the. I don't know when Discovery season 3 has been released. Do you?
No, I haven't heard the release
Right.
date yet, but
Yes. Yeah, we need to plan that so we get a kind of a recap of the first 2 seasons.
oh, definitely, definitely.
But yeah, I think you had a theory as well about Riker. Would you coming back?
Yes, I think that Riker will come back to active duty
Yeah.
in maybe the last 1 or 2 episodes. We might even see him on the Titan.
I wrote down here the Titan or the Enterprise. I'd love to see the Enterprise.
I thought that the Enterprise was under Captain Worf.
Yeah, but can you imagine Worf on the bridge and Riker alongside him? You know,
Yeah.
throwing digs at
could,
Worf.
could you imagine being Worf's like XO when he says it's like, today is a good day today.
Exactly.
Well, actually, sir, I think that we're in the Federation, we're not in the Klingons, so maybe we won't try and die.
Yeah. It'd be just nice though to see, because Riker always had these little digs at Worf, you know,
Yeah.
his little ship, and he's you know, it'd be great to see them interacting again. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think overall it's been my favorite episode of the season so far, in a good season, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
mean, to be honest, every episode of this season has been really good.
yeah,
I don't think that you can say, there's been some that have been weaker than others,
mm,
but they've all been like top episodes.
yeah. I just hope now they finish it off well. Give us a good, like, it's going to be a cliffhanger, I'm guessing. Do you think it'll be a cliffhanger?
I think it probably will be, yeah.
Or will they finish it off? Maybe give us a conclusion and then maybe do a quick 5 minutes for the
Yeah.
next season. What's coming? Something, a new challenge or a new foe or enemy or something. Maybe
Yeah.
give us the Borg as the next enemy or something. Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, what about the creatures that, go into the back of people's necks from Conspiracy? Because they never pulled those back out of the
Yeah.
hat, did they,
No.
Stu?
I think they did a right in Futurama, the cartoon. They did
Fair
a,
enough.
they did an episode. I think they did some sort of episodes with that. But
Yeah.
no, again, I just want to apologize. I haven't been as talkative. I've just kind of sat back and let you do most of the work, Hayden. I apologize tonight.
Well, you haven't been very well at all, but
No,
at least you're back at home and all that now.
Yeah, it's been probably, as I spoke to you privately, it's been scary. A few scary moments for me. I don't know, old age is finally catching up with me. I think it's taken a while. But
Yeah, well, it's one of those things. If you don't start looking after bits, then they stop working properly, don't
yeah,
they?
I'm so stubborn that I just ignore things and they'll eventually solve themselves. But this time, unfortunately, didn't. But thankfully, it wasn't the
Yeah.
coronavirus, so I can touch wood on that one.
Yeah.
But no, I'm glad I was able to keep the weekly Picard episode going. It's been great, you know.
Yeah,
And
definitely has.
as soon as we finish this one, I'm going watching the next one straight away. I think you can only
So
watch it
am I.
now as well, can you? Okay,
Yeah, I can watch it now. Yeah.
I won't text you.
I will be editing this on one screen and watching it on the other.
Well, I'm going to try and get some soup into me here while I'm watching the episode. That's my plan for the next hour.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Right, okay, well, we might as well sign off. So
Yeah.
thanks, everybody, for listening and tuning in. Hope you've enjoyed the show, and we'll have, well, our episode 8 theory out
Wow.
next week.
Episode 8 already. Are you serious? Bloody hell.
Yeah, there's only 2 more after this one.
Oh, no, don't say that. That's
Yeah,
sad.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. Well, thanks again,
All
Hayden,
right.
for all your hard work. As always, I appreciate the effort you put in. You do some great work with your notes and everything. It's great. It makes my life easier, so I appreciate it.
Well, it's a joy to do, and it's a joy to talk it about with you as well, because we get some good theories going, I think, between the two of us.
Yeah, even when I'm
all right.
Legend.
Indeed. Yeah, and I'm glad that you're feeling better.
Thank you.
With that, I'm going to say kapla.
And with that, I'm going to say, top of the morning to you, and slán.
Are you a wee bit starstruck there, laddie?
God, if they bring him back again, I hope I never see him. No, he has to stay away now for the rest of the season.
Definitely does.
All right.
All right. Bye, guys.
Nice. Take it easy.